I'm Dave and this is Logan, once again for a walk in the New Forest. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at Burley. It's about 4 miles to the southeast of Ringwood. Now I know we've done a video walk at Burley in the past, but in that one we concentrated to the south of the village. Today we're going to be doing a roughly 4 mile circular route to the north and have a quick little wander through the village and then head up to an Iron Age hill fort, some terrific views from there, and then back along the Burley Moor heathland through some glorious woodland. We'll have a quick look at the church as well, and I expect a few other interesting things along the way. Now I'm filming late September, but as you can probably gather, it is a glorious day. The sun's out, there's hardly a cloud in the sky. Should be perfect weather for walking, so do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car at the Forestry Commission car park by the cricket pitch to the south of the village, and the cricket pitch here behind me has been here since 1912. The actual club has been around since 1875, and the pavilion over on my left was built in 1974. And just looking at the pitch here, so typical of New Forest cricket pitches, you can see there's a series of metal gates keeping the pitch safe from ponies in the area. Okay, so we're going to make our way into the centre of the village to actually start our walk from there. Well, just coming into the village, this is the Queen's Head that dates to 1685 and was originally a blacksmith's, I believe, and I think the forge eventually moved to where the leathercraft shop is now to the side. But the pub used to store contraband in the days of smuggling, and a few years ago workmen found long forgotten loot including pistols, cutlasses, brandy bottles and coins in a secret smuggler's cellar. Anyway, we'll have a quick wander through the village, but we're going to initially start off by heading to the car park next to the Queen's Head, which will be our official starting point for the walk. Well, if you can't find a car park space at the Forestry Commission car park, which is free, then there is the pay and display car park next to the Queen's Head, which is where I'm starting the walk from. And well, just behind me here you've got a great view of Burley Manor there in glorious sunshine. Now, our manor stood here in Saxon times, and a Tudor house on the site was replaced by a Georgian house which was burnt down in 1850 and then rebuilt in Tudor style in 1852. It's now a hotel, and unfortunately no dogs are allowed in the park, so we can't get any closer. Well, there's a handy little map in the car park here, so that's where I've parked next to the cricket pitch, and I've walked down. There's the pay and display car park. I'm just going to have a little wander through the village itself. It's not a particularly big village, but it does get quite busy in the summer with tourists. Well, we'll have a little wander through the village. There will be a little bit of traffic coming through and the odd tourist as well. You'll notice a number of shops selling items to do with witches. I'll tell you all about that later. As you'd expect in a sort of tourist attraction area, lots of little tea rooms, gift shops and that sort of thing. And a lot of people use Burley as a base when they come to the New Forest and visit the whole of it. So we're going to start heading northwards, and we will eventually make our way out into the countryside proper, as it were. Well, a well-preserved milestone, and there's quite a few of these in the area, and they were put here by a chap called Thomas Eyre, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was the house steward and bailiff to the manor at the time. And there is another one close to the Queen's Head with "Peace Restored, 27th of March 1802" on it, which refers to the Treaty of Amiens that brought a temporary cessation of hostilities between Britain and France during the Napoleonic Wars. And there's the fire station. Now the only reason I point it out is that, well, I guess it must be one of very few fire stations in the country that actually has a cattle grid in the entrance. Well, we haven't gone far, but we've got to have a pit stop for blackberries. And there's some lovely juicy ones here already, which I don't know why I'm doing this. You can perfectly capable of picking them off yourself, but there we go. I expect we'll find some more as well. Well, if you're going to be doing this walk after watching the video, you need to look out for this change in direction. Head out of Burley and then look out for the very impressive entrance to Burley Hill House, which is just behind me here. And you can see the gates there, and what you need to do is go through the gate on the right hand side, because that's a public footpath and that is going to take us uphill. Well, we've been making our way through some quite atmospheric woodland, nice and shaded on a hot day, just what the doctor ordered. I mentioned earlier there was a connection with witchcraft and the village of Burley, and indeed there was a white witch called Sybil Leek who lived here in the 1950s, and she was known for going around wearing a black cloak and a pet jackdaw on her shoulder. Spooky stuff. I think we'll move on quickly. Well, we've made our way to the top of the hill and we'll be having a look at the Iron Age hill fort here very shortly, but what about these views to the west? Aren't they quite stunning? It really is quite a magnificent sight. This is looking west, and beyond those trees you'll find Ringwood, and then just panning across there's a sort of gravel track that goes up to the ridge there. That's an old smuggler's road. Of course, Burley was so infamous for smuggling in the past that at one stage the revenue men preferred not to enter it unless they really had to, as they knew that the villagers could have an armed mounted troop at short notice, more than capable of dealing with the king's officials. Well, the name Burley derives from all Saxon times. The word bur is fortified place and lea is open meadow or clearing, and indeed at the top of the hill here is an Iron Age hill fort, and you can still just about make out some of the embankments and ditches here. And the fort covers around about 5 acres, and there's a single encircling ditch and rampart, and just here, well, you can just about make out the ditch and the main rampart on that side. In fact, we're just about to go through a gap, and again on this side there's the ditch on the left and the rampart on the right. And we are about 308 foot above sea level here, and there was some gravel extraction in the 19th century which makes it a little tricky sometimes to identify some of the earthworks. And this is the top of the rampart on the western side. Oh, I was going to say that was a crab apple tree, but in fact it's normal apples, if you know what I mean. And looking red and rosy in the sunshine as well. We should be able to get another great view from here as well. Yeah, look at this. And this is looking towards the south. Oh, you could stand here for ages and just drink this in, couldn't you? I should also say that this was once the home of the Biston Dragon. And if you want to know more about him, you'll need to check out my video on Lyndhurst and Bolton's Bench, where I went through his story. Well, we've managed to drag ourselves away from those quite exquisite views at the top of the fort, and I've just passed the appropriately named Castle Top House and are now making our way downhill towards Burley Street, which is a little settlement to the north of Burley. So we've got this rather pleasant little grassy track that will eventually become a sunken road. Wow, now this really is spooky down here. A real sunken track with steep sides. I wonder if this was once an old smuggling route. Might have been. We're just coming into Burley Street, and this gorgeous thatched property here is called Little Ale House. Indeed, it was originally a beer house and then a pub called the New Inn. It's now a residential building. And the building next door used to be the Burley Street Stores and Post Office. And look, yes, you can see where the old telephone box used to be. Well, making our way along this pleasant shaded little country lane called Forest Road, heading eastwards. It's about to cross a stream. I think we get to cross this again later on in the walk. Goodness me, 6 foot. Well, I guess it helps folk make an informed decision as to whether they want to cross or not during a flood. Well, I think this is about as near as you're going to get today for a dog dip. Yeah, I don't think you're very impressed with that one, are you? Never mind. We're now probably at the most northerly point of our walk, still heading eastwards, and this is Burley Moor, and again some quite spectacular heathland landscape. It's lovely, still the heather just about out in bloom still, with that gorgeous purple haze to it. There are a few Bronze Age barrows littered about here as well. Anyway, we're heading out towards those woods over there. Well, I'm filming say in September. It's the start of the pannage season, where pigs are let out into the forest for a couple of months or so to eat all the acorns, which of course are poisonous to ponies. And these 4 little critters here are beavering away doing just that. A lovely colour as well. Well, we've just come off the moor, and this little bit of woodland here is the edge of the South Oakley Inclosure. It's a broadleaf woodland with scattered blocks of conifers. It was created in 1853, shortly after the Deer Removal Act of 1851. Of course, this whole area was originally open heathland with scattered trees, so there are some ancient pollarded oaks in there that were spared the axe when the enclosure was created. Just ahead of me here we can make out a pony pound. Of course, regular viewers will know, used for the catching of ponies predominantly during the annual roundup, the drift, but used other times of the year as well. And this one's actually quite a large one. Yeah, I reckon we've probably tipped off most of the ones in the forest now. I'm not 100% sure how many there are, 20 or 30 or so. But of course it's probably been used quite recently because the annual roundup of ponies is taking place across the forest at various locations round about now. We're just now wandering down Mill Lane, and there was indeed once a mill at the end here, but it ceased production in the 1820s, and I think all that remains is the grist house in the grounds of Mill Cottage. I'll tell you what, just in front of me here there is the quite gorgeous thatched property. Oh, so well presented. Oakley it's called. Lovely. Now this is another important part of the walk if you're going to be following this later. Need to look out for this white cottage. I think it's called Stavegate, because next to it you've got this 5-bar gate, and this is the public footpath. It doesn't look like one because the actual footpath sign, as you can see, is on the other side of the gate. But this is the path we're now going to follow southwards back towards Burley. I've just been making our way through a quite enchanting little shaded path with a row of conifers on one side, and this little bridge here is taking us over a little stream that's called the Mill Lawn Brook, and its source is from springs to the north at Ridley Plain, and it flows into the Ober Water, which of course in turn joins the Lymington River just north of Brockenhurst. And then this is going to take us out into a gorgeous meadow. Oh, isn't that lovely? Oh, the best place to be on a hot day, sheltering in the shade. I love these two little ones here. For a moment I thought that was real. It's very lifelike, isn't it? A terrific objet d'art to have in your front garden. What a pretty garden it is as well, with hydrangeas and all sorts. Well, we're now on the homeward leg, and this is an old chapel. A Calvinistic chapel was erected here in 1789. It was the first church in Burley, and I was reading that originally no pews were allowed inside. And the building was enlarged in 1843 when it replaced the original chapel, and it was functional until around about 1997, and it became a private house as it is now. In fact, I've been chatting to the owner, lovely chap who's telling me all the history about it. Apparently this little building here is where they used to make the coffins. Got another quite magnificent house. Lovely with the well, I think there is some wisteria over the front porch there. Beautiful. Just making my way towards the church and spotted this chap. He really is quite something, isn't he? In fact, there's two of them. There's one below as well. Tremendous carvings. And this is our final destination, the St John the Baptist Church. It was consecrated in 1839, originally a simple rectangular nave and two-bay chancel. A vestry, northwest porch and organ chamber was added in 1886, 1887, and a church room on the north side added in 1974, and that was enlarged in 1987. It's got a stone bell cote with one bell, and then just to the side the St Mary Magdalene Chapel was built and consecrated in 2009. Well, let's have a little look inside, and there's the font there. It's quite cosy. I was reading that in 1886 it was stated that the church was so damp and the seats so ill arranged that kneeling was impossible for adults. It's certainly a very well maintained and beautiful church now. Look at these wonderful stained glass windows. I think that is St John the Baptist in the middle, and then either side you've got St Luke and St Paul, and then obviously that's the pulpit, and then just down here on the left is the slightly more modern St Mary Magdalene Chapel, where folk can come and enjoy some peace, quiet and solitude, and what a place to be able to come for reflection. Well, this is a fascinating window here above the pulpit in memory of Constance Mary Catherine Appleby, June the 4th, 1873 to, goodness, January the 26th, 1981. What did that make her, 107 years old? Anyway, she introduced women's hockey into the United States of America. And indeed, about a third of the way down at the top there's a pair of hockey sticks. Brilliant. Now, when you're in this church, you need to look out for a number of wooden mice carved by Thompsons. And look, there's one here. Make it out, just running up the side of the table there. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment. We're off to see if we can get a pint at the Queen's Head. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio.